Hey everyone, it's Jade from Boho Bookworm. Welcome to my September wrap-up, part 1. September was a pretty shitty reading month. The first book I finished was Problem Child by Victoria Helen Stone, which is the second book in the Jane Doe series. And now Jane Doe, book 1, was a book that I read a couple of years ago that was just, it blew my mind. It was literally one of my favourite thrillers for a couple of years. So I don't know what took me so long to read book 2, and maybe that's what made it not as great, because it was a little bit difficult to remember the story 100%, but I was so underwhelmed by it. I mean, the Jane Doe series in general is a series about this female sociopath. I guess I just lost my connection with it after not reading book 1 for so long. I kind of found that book 2 to me felt very much a copy of The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. Both main characters are these female sociopaths trying their best to hold down a relationship and kind of have a semi-normal life. In The Girl in 6E, this young girl goes missing, and the same thing happens in Problem Child. The main character is compelled to go and figure out what happened to them. So yeah, it just felt like a carbon copy. Problem Child did have a few unique spins, but I did enjoy The Girl in 6E more. Definitely, hands down. Book 1, I'd reviewed it a couple of years ago as like wickedly dark and humorous, but book 2, I just was not as enamoured by it at all. It was very, oh god, my stomach is like grumbling today. It didn't have that big thriller vibe to it. It was definitely more focused on relationships. The whole book just seemed a lot more focused around the way that Jane Doe interacted with her love interest and her niece. It was just a lot more relationship focused, and it lost that thriller vibe to me that I love in books. It was repetitive, dry, slow paced, just honestly a little bit boring, so I ended up giving it a 2-star review. Then I finished, finally, after God knows how long. Let's have a look. I started this book in 2018 and I have just finished it. Dahlia Red Rose by Pugh Marie Eatwell, and it was that bad to me that I didn't even bother to write a review for it on my Goodreads account, and I do not do that. I love writing reviews so that I can kind of remember a story. This one, there was nothing really to remember. It's the true crime case about Elizabeth Short. She was this like aspiring starlet from Massachusetts, I can't say that word, and she gets murdered, and it's the story of her case, but it was so lugged down with information that it really didn't need to have. And I mean, right in the beginning of the book, the author kind of has like a little intro section where he's like, oh yes, well, if you think that this is a bit fiction based because I'm talking about the weather, it's because I actually went back and researched all about the weather. And then literally the book opens with what the weather's like on the day that her body is found, and I was just like, right, here we go. I know what I'm getting in for here. I mean, when was this book set? Like 1947? Yeah, it was information in there that was not needed. I ended up giving it a 1-star review. Then I finished 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. So I wasn't really sure about reading this book for 2 reasons. One is that I really didn't enjoy Catherine Ryan Howard's other book, Rewind, and the other is that 56 Days is set all around the pandemic, and for those of you that might not be aware, I have been struggling a little bit lately with just not feeling 100% at my best, and the pandemic has affected me quite badly and my mental state. I'm not bloody mad, but I think I get triggered by the pandemic, and now this bloody petrol pandemic in the UK as well, and the world's just going mad, and I'm feeling very overwhelmed by it all, and I just want life to be normal and happy and peaceful. So I was a little bit worried, but this book was really doing its rounds on BookTube, so I was like, okay, let me just give this author one more go. I don't like to say I hate an author just from one book, besides American Psycho, Bret Easton Ellis. No, thank you. I will say this, 56 Days is horrifyingly real. It is fiction, but it details the way that COVID-19 kind of came predominantly into Ireland, but you know, all over the world, we all kind of experience the same things. People like hoarding toilet paper and having to suddenly wear masks and stand 2 meters apart, and bars shutting down, and the way that it all just happened, especially because I was completely alone during all of this. I was in Spain, suddenly lost my job, couldn't stay on the boat, had nowhere to go, I was petrified, and I experienced all of this COVID-19 stuff by myself, not knowing what to do or where to go, with hardly any money. And we don't have to go into that, but it's just that, it was really hard to reread that, because Catherine Ryan Howard does explain it in a fantastic way, but it gave me full body chills. So as for the premise, it's about these two people, Chiara and Oliver, in Dublin, and they meet in a grocery store queue. They literally meet just before the pandemic, so they decide, well, so that we don't get kept apart, we've got this connection, why not move in together throughout lockdown so that they can continue to have this relationship blossom. So Chiara thinks this is an amazing way to start a new relationship away from the judgment of her friends and family, while Oliver thinks, this is a really great way to hide who I truly am. So we've got dual timelines, alternating perspectives to present day, where this body is found, this decomposing body is found in Oliver's flat, but we don't know whose body it is just yet. And then we jump back into time 56 days beforehand to where they move in, and Chiara's getting quite suspicious of Oliver because he's kind of being a bit odd, and Oliver's kind of suspicious of Chiara and thinking that she knows who he really is, and he's trying to hide that, and she's like, what's going on? And they're both very suspicious of each other, and it just seems quite toxic very early on, and I don't know why she doesn't just leave. The major gripe that I had with this book was how repetitive it was. Like, due to the multiple points of views, the same conversations were had word for word in different chapters, and that just seemed to take up so much space and time. And I was like, literally, I was reading it and I was like, I'm sure I've read this before. Did I not dog-ear the page correctly? What's happened? And then I go back and I'm like, oh no, it's just the exact same thing happening again. Why? It was just a book that turned out way too long and frankly bored me to tears. I know that I'm in the minority with this one. She does have another book called The Nothing Man, which I have heard nothing but good things about. So I don't know, I might try and give that one a go. However, 56 Days was just another 2-star read for me. So I've had 2 2-star reads and 1 1-star read. Yeah, what a month. I have a few more books to speak about, but I need to try and get to a petrol station and try and fill up with some petrol. I think they've limited it to like £35 per what you can get in your tank, so I need to try and find some because my cars are thirsty. I will get back to you soon with part 2 of my September wrap up. Have a good day everyone, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.